I don't want to be black right now after what we just read, so I'm gonna just leave this on for a few minutes.
I was about to say,
No,
why do we
but
have a
you know
serial
what?
killer in the room? I know we're trying to be diverse, but this is too much. This is too much.
So it
I don't want
says
to be black just for the next 5 minutes. I don't want to.
so it says a lot that you don't even want to deal with your own people.
As soon as I can to be my own person and do whatever the hell I want. And so that was a strong motivating factor to accepting the push out of the mess.
Okay. Amiri, did you want to go now?
What?
Whoa,
It
wow,
sounds like
that's
Star Warsy.
It's giving me Star
Oh,
Wars. It's also giving me Wally. Like, did you see that?
Wally,
No,
Wally.
let her say it.
Wally,
Go
Wally.
ahead, yeah, go ahead.
Amir.
Absolutely. 100%.
Wally.
No.
Black people, the only people who think it's something wrong with living with your parents. That's why other nationalities, the whole house, got 800 credit scores, no debt, drive Benzes, and got thousands in the bank. And then the reply is some Black people make it hard for their kids to stay. Thousands of questions daily, pocket watching, rent amount constantly increasing, etc. Sometimes you have to choose peace rather than saving a few dollars.
So there was a whole conversation on that on King Talk. So I was like, well, why don't I just ask other nationalities? The question, this is number 2 question. I kind of want to roll into that is what age would you kick your children out? Or is it deemed appropriate?
But can I comment something on that?
Go right ahead. Yeah.
Because I agree with what is being said there, but the reply though got me thinking that I honestly have a peaceful life. I've always had. Like I've never heard my grandparents arguing, yelling at each other. Never. My dad, never. Never. He can be upset, and when he's kind of like not wanting to hear something from my stepmom, he would just walk away. So
I don't want to be black right now after what we just read, so I'm gonna just leave this on for a few minutes.
I was about to say,
No,
why do we
but
have a
you know
serial
what?
killer in the room? I know we're trying to be diverse, but this is too much. This is too much.
so it
I don't
says-
want to be black just for the next 5 minutes. I don't want to.
So it says a lot that you don't even want to deal with your own people. And I get it. I have to say, I'm from outside, right? So the way I see it, Black people are very emotional and passionate when they talk, when they are laughing. I love it. I love the energy, but that energy transferred to something else when it's anger in between. So it's like they cannot kind of like manage, I can be extremely happy, but when I am upset and mad, oh my god, that's terrible. That's what I have noticed. So that's why nobody wants to deal with that energy when it, people is mad at each other or angry, because I've never disrespected my stepmom, and we're honest with each other, but we don't have arguments like that. So I cannot even think about living with people that I cannot deal with. Like I can't, stay in that environment. So I understand that part as well. So we have to learn how to control that, I would say.
So I was raised in a very peaceful environment, in a very peaceful home, and our father didn't push us out. But I know a lot of people are in, like, kind of like how Raul Duke said, like 18 and you're out. What's your plan? Get out. So that's why I kind of wanted to pose the question, because I know there are a lot of cultures and races that believe in communal living and in making sure they support their family. But some races are like, you have a plan. It's college. You're out on your own. You better start a business or go to the military. So like,
Yes.
so that I kind of wanted to have like that conversation. Like,
I mean, we can't even say it's just a cultural thing unless we're looking at the American culture, because they've been a model, and we could just say through the media for so long that I think people have taken on that and ingested something that was not how history did things. History showed that everybody lived communally for a very long time, and it was successful. I think everybody going after the American dream and everybody getting the big house, the white picket fence, it kind of pushed everybody to do something that was kind of outside of the norm, but now it's become the norm. And again, I'm not speaking against independent living. It's just, if that is not for you, I don't think you should feel pressured to do so. I feel like you should figure out what works for you. My parents actually studied the model of more of Asian culture, Latin culture, and they appreciated those that did communal living. And my dad was all about protecting women, empowering women, but making sure they were ready to go out in the world, not pushing them out where they didn't feel like they had nowhere else to go. So then you start depending on maybe different exchanges, you know, to make rent, or you're putting yourself in a vulnerable situation. So he was like, when you're ready, I want you to be under my protection, and not in a like I don't want anybody to think my dad was like a control. It was a control thing. It was more like, I know I love my daughters. I want to protect them.
Like
And
an
when,
umbrella, a covering.
yes, it really is. And, you know, so I think it's very important that you figure out what your dream is. And for me, I rather my family, now that my dad is gone, you know, I want to make sure my nephews and, you know, those that are in my care, that now that my dad's not here, you know, my brother, like I said, he stepped in, but we have a godfather, we have uncles, we have those that have stepped in, and they're making sure that we're safe, we're protected. So I do think it's important that we choose the model that works for us and not feeling pushed to fulfill some American dream. Because if you watch a lot of just the Asians, a lot of them will move in together, you know, and they'll literally start a business together. And like they said, they will have multi-million dollar business within a couple of years because they found a way. I think the screen froze. I'm so sorry, guys. If I
We
have
can
a
still
bad
see you.
connection, if I have bad connection, my apologies. But they found a way for everyone to prosper. So everyone got what I call a hand up, not a hand out. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with you finding a model that works for you and your family. But I'm not going to sit up here and judge somebody that tries to move towards independent living. But at the same time, I'm definitely not going to judge somebody that decides to stay with their family and empower them and make sure everybody is safe or they're thriving, because there's nothing wrong with that.
Iris, do you have a brother?
I do.
Did he get the same consideration you did, or was he more forced to go out as I was?
My dad, and like you said, because, you know, as the man, we in our culture we do feel like it is important that a man goes out and begins to build his life, build his home, so he can have a wife. So, but my dad did give him the option, but he did think it was important that he either went to school, found a trade, and that he established himself as a man so he could become a good husband. And he
So when you say
definitely,
it's not so much cultural as gender or sexist, the men are. I was definitely pushed more to
for
excel
sure,
and become independent sooner than my sisters.
for sure,
I'm not saying it's
yeah.
wrong.
No, you're
Um,
right. That is definitely how our culture is set up. You're
okay.
agreeing
So
with
is
you.
that, so you would say it's more of an American culture, or does that happen in other races? Like,
No, I wanted to say that's a very interesting point, because I think as a woman, I think that because he's looking at it from the point of view as a man, that he was given, you know, he was pushed to do things. In my case, I look at it as my brother, I'm the oldest. My brother is the second youngest. So my dad, I consider sometimes machista. Like, you know, he gives my brother some freedom that we didn't have as women. Like, he gave my brother a car. He didn't give us a car. He didn't even teach us to drive because he was just protecting us, right? He people call it I was spoiled. But how women look at it is like, okay, he was giving you freedom, and he was allowing you and giving you skills, allowing the men to do things that we're capable of doing, but it's the man choosing that. Like, I get it, because I said it's machismo, but how we look at it is not like we want to do that. I wish my dad would have, you know, like, treat me the same way and give my brother responsibility, because I feel like he was also spoiling my brother in a way, giving him a car and not letting him work for the car, you know. So it's different, but it exists in other cultures as well.
okay. Did you have anything to say, Lapeef? I know you've been sitting quiet over there.
Yeah, I've just been sitting observing. I kind of spoke on this yesterday. I was raised to not get pushed out of the house, but I had to have a plan. And so the plan that I did was I went to college, so it was kind of easy for me. But you can kind of just get the feeling the older I got, and it's kind of like, what are you going to do? Even when it came to getting allowance versus me going out there to work. I remember coming home for one summer, and I asked my grandmother for some money and said, you know, you need to get you a job. And the one thing that she told me is something is better than nothing. And she was right, because the little $20, $30 they give me just wasn't enough back then. But when I went and got a job, at least I was getting about $150, $200 a week. So it made the difference. I think for me, it was more you had to have a plan. And as long as you following that plan and doing what you're supposed to do and it's something that's productive, then we will still support you. But I couldn't come back to the house and just think I was going to sit around and not do nothing.
No.
Do you think that's more accepted for females? Like if the girl or like the girl's like, oh, I'm still deciding on my plan. Is that
And-
okay?
Like I think it still all dependent.
Kat, I got you next. I heard.
I think it still all depends on what she's doing as well. You know, if she's doing something that's productive, something that she's supposed to do, she's not out running the street stand like late at night, spend a night at different men's house. I think that she would still have the support as well. But she had to be doing what she's supposed to do. And I think that for the women, that they are allowed to stay a little bit longer, only because they have to be in the right situation with the right person in order to be released. I mean, at least that's how I would feel. You know, I wouldn't want my daughter just out there trying to figure it out. But when it comes to my son, I do think it's kind of like balance. And I always push this. Life is about balance because you kind of want them to push them to be independent, but with support. And if you can figure out a way to simultaneously do that together, then I think it'll work better for the child, for the man, at least, the young man.
Kat, I know you were trying to say something.
No, it's okay. It was because you were asking about, supporting the household. And it just made me think about when I was in high school, the ground kind of fell from under us. My dad lost his job. And my mom, for the most part, was like a stay-at-home mom. And she did, little side jobs here and there that really helped out the house.
Mm-hmm.
But even though my dad didn't push for it, it wasn't something that he asked of me. My senior year of high school, I got a job. I did the thing where you went to school part-time and went to work part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And because I didn't want to add to the burden and I wanted to help my parents, with things. And I wanted to help the household. So, from, maybe a man's perspective, yeah, you want to be the head, you want to be a leader, but just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't help. And I know there was definitely times where I wanted to contribute and I didn't want to be like, oh, my hands are just, lifted if we lose everything. That's not the mentality I had. That's not the mentality I was raised with. The mentality I was raised with was work, know how to work, know how to survive, know how to live on, little. And I did. I remember we had this thing in high school called the senior project, and it could be on anything you want. And to be completely honest, I did something really easy. I did on how to live life simply because it was something I was taught my whole life, how to live your life, that you don't have to go out and get like the latest name brand. You can go out and be like, oh, this is a nice shirt and look, it's $3. Or, oh, look, this is something that I can have for a few years and it's super cheap. My mom was always someone that she looked and she's like, here's the deal. And this is how we're going to do this. And this is how we're going to do that. And when we had food stamps, we weren't one of those families that were like hiding our face. Like, oh no, we have food stamps. We're like, look at me. I'm getting food for my family. Yes, we get to eat tonight. And it was something that we worked through. We support each other and we were able to get through it because of, that mentality of we don't have to have, the big house, the big whatever. It was just like, we just need to survive and take care of each other.
And that's beautiful, especially in this day and age, because I feel like everyone wants to live that luxury lifestyle, the Instagram dream, try to one up.
But that's the thing is like, it's a fantasy. It's a dream. It's a dream. It's like everything. It's like, what realistically can you do? So you don't have the big mansion. Do you have a roof over your head? Oh my goodness. That's so good. That's so good. There's so many people that don't have that roof over their heads. There's so many people that don't have food in their fridge. And to be grateful, to be content with what you have is such a struggle for so many people. But I think it's so important. I'm not driving like the fanciest car. There's nothing in my life that I'm just like, yes, look, it's just, my little cheap gold frames from Amazon is the closest thing to luxury I get sometimes. But I'm okay with that. I have everything I need. And contentment, I think, is the bigger struggle. Because even if you do have everything, that doesn't mean you're content with what you have.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. There are a lot of rich people who are very unhappy people. Trigger Mike or Amira, I don't know if you had a chance to speak on this.
Your audio.
Yeah, your audio's coming in.
So you're an alien,
Yeah.
right now?
So Kelly, just to answer the question and to have, so in the US we always hear that kids are kicked out of the house at 18. Is this like a rule
You're
or
considered
has
a
changed?
grown up. You're considered an adult at 18.
Yes.
Wow. So here in my country, parents will never kick that kid out. Never. Never. You don't hear that. It's more like they're allowed to stay until they, because it's kind of like parents understand that they will grow and try to work for their things. So when they are ready, they just leave alone. You know, like that nobody has to tell them that they have to go, but they have to follow the rules of the house. That's for sure.
Yes.
You
If
have
I
to follow the rules of the house. So you can live here, but you gotta wash dishes, you gotta cook, you gotta if you're working or studying, you gotta follow the rules. Hey, if your dad says that you gotta be here at 11, you gotta be back.
That was
that
my
goes-
biggest
that goes-
problem. That's why I wanted to leave so early. Once
You
I hit
see,
18,
so now you're
I was happy to go. I did not want to be controlled. And it was, I honestly believe that, your culture is correct, that you should be allowed to stay longer. I think of course, it makes sense. You can save up more money. You can get out at the proper time. The way that I was sent out, while it did toughen me and it did make me stronger and smarter, I think you can still get those same results with a more enlightened standpoint, which is what I think your family has. And so, but no, at the same time, fuck that noise. I do not want to have a curfew. I would love as soon as I can to be my own person and do whatever the hell I want. And so that was a strong motivating factor to accepting the push out of the nest.
Okay. Amir, did you want to go now?
What?
whoa,
It
wow,
sounds like Star Warsy.
It's giving me
Oh,
Star Wars. It's also giving me Wally. Like, did you see that?
Wally,
No,
Wally.
let her say it.
Wally,
Go
Wally.
ahead, yeah, go ahead.
Amir.
Absolutely. 100%.
Wally.
No. E.T.
Can you say
phone home.
Wally for me, like real quick?
Phone
Like, just,
home.
Just say Wally.
Have fun with it.
Say Wally, please. Say Wally.
Ah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
The mystic portal awaits. Like, what is going
Oh,
on?
wow.